Hello, wonderful people. Here we are, chapter 13, Universal Gravitation, and now we're going to talk about what it means to be weight and to be weightless, experience weightlessness. All right, so pressure against Earth is the sensation we interpret as weight. So I'm just standing here. Actually, I'm sitting here. You're probably doing something similar. I'm 99.99% sure that you are being held up against Earth. I doubt you're watching this on an airplane. Um, so when the pressure is pulling us down and Earth is holding us up, that pressure is what we feel as weight. So we're just going to get into some of that. Try to get familiar with these words and definitions. The force of gravity, like any force, causes acceleration. Objects under the influence of gravity are pulled towards each other and accelerate. We are almost always in contact with Earth, unless you're flying or in orbit. So we think of gravity as something that presses us against Earth rather than as something that accelerates us. And that's why physics is trouble. Because the language that I'm asking you to speak, we think of gravity as something that accelerates us. That's what gravity does. But in everyday existence, we think of gravity as something that presses us against Earth. If you can wrap your head around that, then you should have no problems with what's coming up. Stand on a bathroom scale that is supported on a stationary floor. The gravitational force between you and Earth pulls you against the supporting floor and scale. By Newton's third law, the floor and the scale in turn push up on you. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When you're standing on the floor and pushing down, the floor is pushing up on you. So all I'm saying is that we're going to stick a scale in between there. Next sentence. Between you and the supporting floor is a spring-like gauge inside the bathroom scale. So there's a spring and it's attached to a gauge. This pair of forces compresses the gauge, the force of you pulling against the Earth and the Earth pushing against you. And the weight reading on the scale is linked to the amount of compression. That's how scales work. Now, repeat this weighing procedure in a moving elevator and you would find your weight reading would vary during accelerated motion. So here's you with normal weight on your scale and in an elevator. You see the box with the cable, and the cable starts to pull you up. So as you're getting pulled up, you're going to see that you have a greater weight. When the elevator accelerates upward, the bathroom scale and floor push harder against your feet. The scale would show an increase in your weight. Does that make sense? Good. When the elevator accelerates downward, the support force of the floor is less. The scale would show a decrease in your weight. If the elevator fell freely, if they cut the cord and it just fell, the scale reading would register 0. According to the scale, you would be weightless. You would have no weight. You'd still have mass, but you'd have no weight. You would feel weightless, for your insides would no longer be supported by your legs and pelvic region. So you'd feel it on your insides too. You're used to having your stomach and your intestines and all that stuff pushed down on the inside, and suddenly it's not going to be pushing down anymore. It's a very strange feeling. The sensation of weight is equal to the force that you exert against the supporting floor. So there's your normal weight. You feel a greater weight when you're being accelerated up. You feel less weight when you're being accelerated down. And if they cut the cord and you fall so that the box is falling at the speed of gravity, then you have no weight. Oops, too many skips. Rather than define your weight as the force of gravity that acts on you, it is more practical to define weight as the force you exert against a supporting floor. According to this definition, you are as heavy as you feel. The condition of weightlessness is not the absence of gravity, but the absence of a support force. So how do we make that happen? Well, you can get outside of gravity. You can go up into space, far past the Earth, even past the moon, and now you will be in weightlessness because there's no gravity pulling on you. Another way to do it is to just drive the car off the cliff, and while you're falling, you will experience weightlessness. Both people are without a support force and therefore experience weightlessness. Okay. Here is another way to experience weightlessness. The top of the ride. And they fall, and then they stop. So, this one is called Tower of Doom. I've been on Pitfall, which is in Pittsburgh, and a few others over the years. The highest one I ever went on, you would feel free fall for almost 4 seconds. It was 8 stories high. That was in New Jersey. And instead of being in a chair there and you sat right in the chair, this one you stepped into a cage and the cage didn't come straight down. It put you on your back and then you slowed down on a long runway while you were flat on your back. Here's another weird thing. Let me go back to the other picture. So I used to be an inspector for an insurance company, and I would go inspect elevators. I wouldn't inspect elevators in buildings because that's what elevator inspectors do. I would inspect the factory where they made elevators. So I could ride in the elevator where they would break the cable and see if the safety system worked okay. And that was my job, was to make sure that their safety system worked okay. So I got to be in an elevator that would have a failure and we'd fall for up to 2 seconds. It was 20 meters. And then the other thing is the brakes on this thing are not like the brakes on that ride at the park I just showed you. The brakes on an elevator aren't meant to keep you comfortable. They're meant to save your life. So it's a little hard. You don't want to be in an elevator. It comes to a pretty sudden stop. So, but that was a pretty cool job. I must admit, kind of miss it. Are we done with this then? Did I get through the last slide, the condition of weightlessness? So what sensation do we interpret as weight? That's the question that I would ask in class. And what would you say if I called on you? Thank you very much.